Ever since I played my first ever Souls game, that being Elden Ring, I've noticed that most people call Bloodborne a masterpiece. A perfect game. Some even say it's the best Souls game of all time. But the thing is, still to this day, I've never played Bloodborne. So now, I finally jumped in a decade later to find out, is Bloodborne actually that good? Right from the jump, I knew absolutely nothing about this game. I was lucky enough to have the pleasure of going into this game completely blind, and I learned very quickly that Bloodborne just hits different. Welcome to the video. My name is Daph, and on this channel, I talk about games that I, or sometimes even you, love. And today, we're going to be looking at Bloodborne and its DLC. In this video, I'm going to talk about the world, weapon, bosses, and everything in between. But first, we're going to start off with one of Bloodborne's biggest strengths, that being its world. There's one thing Bloodborne absolutely nails, it's going to be its world design. From the moment you open this game, it immediately sets this dark and unsettling tone. This is proven by the fact that the moment you wake up, you get mauled to death by a fucking werewolf. But in return, you get sent to this amazing hub world, the Hunter's Dream. This definitely has to be my second favorite hub world out of all the Souls games. The overall vibe and aesthetic of it just truly feels so Bloodborne-y. I do just wish that there was more NPCs to interact with here. Now the actual world looks great, and as you go deeper, the world gets weirder and darker. You go from town streets to twisted forests, ancient ruins, and literal nightmare realms. The way the game shifts from a gothic tone to a cosmic-like tone without ever breaking immersion is insane. Another thing that they did really well was the interconnectivity throughout the world. You'll be exploring some forgotten back alley, open a door, and realize you're in the same spot you were just an hour ago. It really creates this amazing sense of place. You're not just teleporting from zone to zone. The interconnectivity has always been a strong point of the Souls games, but I really noticed it here in Bloodborne. The world that they've built for Bloodborne is honestly damn near perfect. My only real critique that I have is wishing that there was more to explore. Now, for what I think Bloodborne's biggest strength is, the weapons and combat. Honestly, weapons in Bloodborne, easily my favorite part in the entire game. Like, it's not even close. The combat in Bloodborne is just so different. It's fast, it's fluid, and what makes it all work so well are its trick weapons. These aren't your typical sword and axes that FromSoft likes to do. They're a lot more dynamic than that. Each weapon has two forms, and you can switch between them mid-fight. A quick blade becomes a heavy axe, a cane turns into a whip, and a saw unfolds into this brutal cleaver. It's not just a gimmick, it is the core of the game's combat. These transformations aren't just cool, they change your entire rhythm. Some forms are fast and clean, others are slower but hit like a truck. And switching on the fly, right in the middle of a combo, feels so good. Personally, I almost immediately fell in love with the Kirk Hammer. It's two very different modes in one weapon. You start off with this sharp little sword that's great for quick strikes, but then you slam into this massive stone hammer and just wreck everything in front of you. It's heavy, it's slow, but just landing that heavy attack is so satisfying. Then there's the Whirlgig Saw, which is probably the easiest, most deadly weapon to use. It was just so simple to melt bosses with this weapon. I quickly learned why it's considered the strongest and a fan favorite amongst the community. But my favorite part of the weapons is just how different each weapon feels. Like, your whole approach to combat just completely shifts depending on what weapon you're using. Oh yeah, and another thing that Bloodborne has that surprisingly fits so well, guns. Yep, guns. And I think they use them in the best way possible as well. In Bloodborne, you use the guns more as a tool and not as another way of damage. And what does this tool do? Parry. And it is so satisfying to do. You're not just mashing the attack button, you're weaving together dodges, shots, transformations, and finishers. The guns in this game just feel like a cherry on top that brings everything all together and truly make you feel like a hunter. So yeah, between the trick weapons, the gunplay, and just how fast everything feels, the combat kept me locked in the entire time. It's definitely where Bloodborne shines the most for me personally. Which is why I was a little surprised, for as much hype as the game gets for its boss fights, they didn't quite hit the same high for me. Don't get me wrong, they're cool, they're intense, some of them look incredible. But as a whole, the bosses were actually kind of the weakest part of the game for me personally. Let me explain. As much hype as Bloodborne gets for its bosses, most of the base game bosses I found really easy. Don't get me wrong, there's some amazing designs in there. Father Gascoigne might be my favorite tutorial boss out of all the Souls games, and Emilia's intro is just so unsettling and creepy. But when it came down to actually fighting them, they didn't really feel that threatening. For me, most bosses didn't take more than 2 or 3 attempts, and it was like that for a while. And honestly, once I got the parrying timing down, a lot of them felt really free. A lot of the boss fights felt really slow and just had you sitting there waiting for an opening, and then you hit them, do a shit ton of damage, and then they just die. And it wasn't like at any point I was over leveled. I don't know, from these bosses, I guess I was expecting a lot more of a serious fight, especially with how intense the rest of the game appears to be. That being said, the fights that I really did love and personally stuck with me were the Hunter versus Hunter fights. Fights like Father Gascoigne and Lady Maria really stuck out to me. They're fast, they're aggressive, and they fight like you, which makes the entire fight feel way more personal. It's not just some huge monster flailing around, it's a duel. And those fights are really where the combat really shines. Honestly, if the game had more boss fights like those, I think I would have connected with the game a lot more than I did. That being said, the DLC, completely different story. That's where the boss design goes absolutely wild in the best ways possible. I'll dive more into that in the DLC section of the video because that part really deserves its own spotlight. While the base game bosses didn't quite hit as hard as I hoped, the DLC is where the game really steps it up. FromSoft very clearly went all out here. The difficulty, the boss design, the environment, it all just feels meaner and way more memorable. Let's talk about the Old Hunters DLC and why without it, I think Bloodborne wouldn't be nearly as good. Now this is where Bloodborne, for me personally, goes from solid to amazing. The Old Hunters DLC is easily one of the best expansions I've ever played for a game. It takes literally everything that works in the base game and then just cranks it to 11. First off, the bosses, way better. These fights actually pushed me. They're aggressive, unpredictable, and most of them felt like a real test of skill. Something that the base game bosses were really lacking. There was no more breezing through it in 2 or 3 tries. These bosses really made me earn it. And the designs themselves were fantastic. Ludwig was disturbing in the best way. The Orphan of Kos was absolutely relentless. And then there's Lady Maria. Hands down, my favorite boss in the entire game. She's basically the perfect version of those hunter fights that I loved earlier in the game. Every phase just flows so well and the vibes were immaculate. She really reminded me a lot of Melania from Elden Ring, which might have been why I loved her fight so much. Now the levels in the DLC are incredible. You got the Hunter's Nightmare where it just really feels like a remix of the areas you previously knew. Then there's the Research Hall with its creepy atmosphere, which just really makes everything feel like there's something wrong. And of course the Fishing Hamlet, which might be one of the most disturbing and unique areas in the entire game. And also my favorite area in the entire game, which may surprise a lot of you because the worst enemies in the entire fucking game lie here. Honestly, if Bloodborne was just the base game, I'd still think it'd be solid, but with the Old Hunters DLC, that's what really makes Bloodborne a high tier game for me. It's not just more content, it's honestly the best part of the game. But after finishing the DLC, I started diving into something a little more different. The Chalice Dungeons. Let's talk about them. So I'll be real, as of making this video, I haven't really dived into the Chalice Dungeons a lot, but from what I've played, they're definitely interesting. It's kind of like this side mode where you go through these procedurally generated dungeons with traps, hidden paths, and unique bosses. It really has a different feel than the rest of the game. And from completing these dungeons, you get these blood gems that define your builds, which I thought was a really nice touch for a reason to actually do these dungeons. I can see the appeal, especially if you're looking for something to do after beating the base game and the DLC. And apparently there's some really cool stuff tucked away into the deeper layers, so I'm definitely planning to go back and dig into it more. After finally playing through Bloodborne, I do get why this game has such a dedicated fan base, even though I do think it's a little bit overhyped. The combat is fast and satisfying, the world is unforgettable, and the atmosphere, completely unmatched. Just the overall aesthetic of this game is just unlike any other Souls game. But I didn't love everything. Some of the base game bosses felt a little underwhelming, and I haven't yet gone super deep into Chalice Dungeons. But overall, this was an amazing experience. The weapons were easily my favorite part of the entire game, and fights like Lady Maria made it all worth it. And man, the Old Hunters DLC really pushed the whole game into top tier territory for me. I would love to see a Bloodborne 2, or even honestly just a PC port. It's just one of those games that deserve more love on a bigger platform. At the end of the day, I had an awesome time with Bloodborne. It may not be perfect, but it's definitely something special. Which is why I'm going to give Bloodborne a solid 8 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, comment your favorite weapon or boss down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. My name is Daph, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.